Hey there, everybody. Greg Dingrando with El Paso County, and I'm joined now by the project manager for the Westside Avenue Action Plan. Got that right?
Correct.
Project manager Dennis Barron for the county. And this is a project that's really been in the works for several years. And if we go back to the history of it, really the root of this was that it was broken up into so many different agencies. At least like 5 different agencies were kind of in control of this stretch.
There was really no one in control. CDOT had the roadway, but it was passing through several municipalities: City of Colorado Springs, the City of Manitou Springs, El Paso County, and part of it was in CDOT right-of-way. So it got the name No Man's Land, and there was no overriding jurisdictional control.
The ultimate goal, and we're going to have these weekly videos that we put together for you guys, is to educate everybody on what these guys are doing. But we wanted to give you the history of things first. Like I said, it's been worked on for years, but you broke ground in January. Is that right?
We awarded a construction contract in December of 2016 to Wildcat Construction, and we actually began physical work in January. The initial work was primarily locating utilities. We did a lot of underground potholing to confirm locations of utilities. We started cutting down trees that were going to have to be removed to construct the plan, and basically doing some surveying just to set up control for the construction. Over the last couple months, we've been doing active construction, initially starting with the storm sewer installation, followed by water line installation. Manitou is getting new water lines and storm sewers, which they didn't have before, and we're continuing to put those in, and we're getting to a point where a lot of the underground infrastructure will be in place by the end of June.
The ultimate goal, when this project is done, we're talking widening of some of the lanes. You're putting in some sidewalks, which at this point don't even exist through this area. You just have a long way to go, right? Basically, you have to start underground before you can start the fix.
Before we can get to the top. The ultimate configuration of the roadway, though, will actually reduce in width. It's currently a 4-lane road. It is being created as a slow and social corridor, is what the catchphrase we're using, and we'll have 1 lane in each direction. We'll create a center turn lane. We found in our earlier studies that a lot of the problems and delays were caused by people needing to turn into the numerous businesses along the area. So it was decided to put in a center turn lane that people could get out of the main flow of traffic. The 1 lane of traffic will carry the projected traffic for the area. The turn lane will provide better access, and we're also making it a slow and social corridor by adding bike lanes and sidewalks where they don't exist. And we're removing a lot of the obstructions that currently exist in the sidewalk. All the electric utilities, some of them poles in the sidewalk, are all above ground now. We are going to put them all underground, and the corridor will have a completely different look, and we hope will revitalize the area.
Okay. So that gives us a brief history of it, and what we want to do is really go week by week. So we're going to air these, on Fridays, and really give people an idea of what you guys did. So looking at this week, what have you guys been doing?
This week, focus was primarily continuing the installation of the storm sewer system and the water line system, and making connections on the south side of the road to the water line. So if I can point to the map.
Switch your sides, yep.
Okay. Most of the work this week is occurring on Manitou Avenue from Crystal Hills Boulevard going west towards the end of the project by the Loaf and Jug station. We've continued to install the storm sewer system. I think we're almost at the end of it. The storm sewer system runs from about this area here, opposite the Days Inn, comes all the way down, and I'm sorry the maps aren't particularly aligned, but Manitou Avenue is up here, so if you envision that they're connected. And we've installed storm sewer all the way down to Emerald Fields. Now, some of that was done in the previous weeks, and most of the work has been west of Crystal Hills this week on that one. But at some point, the storm sewer will connect into the creek at this location. Emerald Fields is here. The storm line comes up to here, and it will go to the creek perpendicular and exit into the creek. So we still have this section to connect. We have some work over here, and we have inlets to construct. But the main trunk line will most likely be completed by the end of the week this week.
Talk about some of the challenges that you guys have run into this week. I know what you've been running into in the past is just a lot of these old water lines aren't exactly straight,
right,
like you would expect.
Okay, yeah, some of the challenges, the existing infrastructure is very old. It's not well mapped in many cases. You start digging, you don't know what's under there. A lot of the businesses along the corridor have historically changed hands over the time. Some of them used to be gas stations with underground storage tanks. Some of that has leaked into the soil, so occasionally we'll come in as part of the excavation, find that we were hitting contaminated soils, which slows the operation down. You have to assess how bad it's contaminated. We bring an environmental person out to take a look at it. We bring in fans to make sure that we have clean air for the people that have to work in the trench, and we limit the amount of time that people work in the trench. And then we have to remove the contaminated soil, try and get it aerated as best as possible, and a lot of times we have to truck it off-site to a sanitary landfill. We've also run into, throughout the construction, huge boulders, and we have a bunch of them located in the parking lot outside, but just where the storm sewer needed to go, we've run into boulders, some of them the size of a car, some of them are very difficult to get out, and we've had to bring in, Wildcat has had to bring in some special equipment to break up the boulders in place for those that couldn't be moved. Requires very heavy equipment to get them out of there, and again slows the production down, so it causes us to not move as fast along the corridor as we had originally hoped. So you run into those things. They're different challenges every day. Our construction manager on site working with Wildcat, our construction managers, CH2M Hill, and they're working with Wildcat. Once they get a problem, they get their heads together and figure out an attack plan and work to get a solution as quickly as possible. The other work that's been ongoing, which is we've installed new water lines, and again, primarily we're working west of Crystal Hills Boulevard. This is Crystal Hills Boulevard, Becker's Lane, and continuing west to the Loaf and Jug area there. We have the existing water line in place, and we have a new water line in place. So all the buildings are currently connected to the existing water line. We're putting in a lot of valves as we go along so that we can tie in the businesses to the new water line. So we have two lines that have water in them, the old line and the new line. And so we go along, we disconnect. We put the piping to make the connection to the house from the new water line, and then at the appropriate time, we disconnect from that line, tie to the new line. So we have a lot of valves so we can control which lines are charged with water at any particular time, but it is a slow process, a very tedious process, needs to be planned, and the guys have done a great job in doing that. But what it does entail, it results in some downtime to the businesses. We have to shut the water off, disconnect, make the new connection, and then turn it back on. A lot of times this will go quickly. Sometimes it doesn't. We run into things that cause us to take a longer time to do it, and some of the businesses may be out for a longer time than they had hoped or we had anticipated. But we're doing our best to keep everybody connected and make sure we can move along.
Explain the benefits of that, though, to put all those different valves in. Yes, maybe it takes a little bit extra time now, but once it's finished, what will that provide in the future?
In the future, it will enable the system to be shut down in lower. If you have a break in one area, you can isolate the area. The water systems are generally a loop, so it can backfeed from one end and feed from the other and isolate an area where you may have a problem. But during construction, it particularly allows us to keep business in operation with water while we're connecting a different business down the line.
And that's, of course, important for all the businesses out there. They need that water.
They do.
And I'm sure they've expressed that to you guys through the number of meetings you've had.
Yes, we're trying to keep everybody informed of what's going on and the impacts to their businesses. And we're continuing to learn how to best do that. You know, as we go along, we find things that we need to let them know sooner rather than later, and we'll try and do that in the future. We've had some instances where we've run into problems and we've had to make detours on short notice, and we apologize for that. But it's unfortunately, once you open the hole, you gotta finish the work that you're in it and work around it.
Let's talk about the road closures. What did you guys see this week? Where were the majority of the closures along Manitou here?
Okay, again, we're working primarily on the south side of the road. That's where the storm sewer and the water line is going in. So there's a wide trench that we're working in there. We have huge shovels to dig that out. So in order to get material in, safely operate the equipment, we have basically the two lanes closed and we have a single lane of traffic to get around the active construction area. We're using flaggers to hold the traffic in one direction, what we call flushing the traffic from the other direction. So it's basically a stretch of road that will, and it's primarily from Crystal Hills West is under construction, but we end up holding the traffic back this way. Let the people from the west side clear out and get into the two-lane section here. Then we'll stop them and move the traffic that has been held here. And I think you got stuck in the traffic on your way here. So it imposes some delays, but unfortunately it's a narrow corridor. We have a lot of excavation that has to go on, a lot of equipment in the area, and it's the only safe way to do it.
Okay. At this point, and going week by week, how do you feel how things have gone this week?
Things are going pretty well as planned. The rain slowed up some of the productivity during the day, but I think they're working long hours. They're basically working 7 to 7, and sometimes those hours stretch out depending on what activity we're doing. We're also trying to work on Saturdays, particularly this month, trying to get as much done so that we can clear the whole corridor and get out of the way for the 4th of July weekend.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for bearing with us. Again, this is our first video, and we really do want to hear from you guys. If you have some questions for the project managers and the other workers, let me know. Please email me. My email is greg.dingrando@elpasoco.com. We'll put that up on the bottom of the screen, so you can email me those questions, and then I can in turn ask that. Now, coming up in our second segment, we'll be airing this a little bit later over the weekend and hopefully again on Monday morning. We're actually going to be looking at the future, what you guys can expect as we head into next week when it comes to some of those closures and some of the work they will be doing. But again, that'll be a second segment that'll be airing a little bit later.